we've done over the decades. I want to thank everyone that's participated this year. It's a real different format to have to deal with. There's not art on the walls, obviously, but people have been very resilient and really came forward with some pretty impressive artwork. We had about over 160 pieces in the show this year. And hopefully you've all seen them on the website or on the Instagram or one of the various formats. I know that we're all missing the big spring art show opening, the crowded scenes that usually go on with this event in May. And that's all coming back. It's on the horizon. You know, we keep looking at that horizon to find out exactly when that's going to happen. But we're definitely looking forward to doing this in real time again. I do want to say that when we had our opening, if you missed that, I thought it was pretty successful and really gratified by the responses and participation in the open forum that we did, where everyone got together and had a chance to talk about the future potentials of the community center in terms of how to support the arts, how to support arts in the Valley, what kind of programming we could do. When we do come back, we are really seeing a potential for some changes and expansion. And so it was really good to hear from all of you on that account. Certainly something the community center has always been very dedicated to the arts in the Valley. We kind of started this, as some people here will certainly know, as an art center that has gone on to serve the community in a whole bunch of different ways. Anyway, so today I wanted to do something as a closing celebration so that we didn't just sort of, oh, there, look, I'm now looking at myself. So I wanted to have a couple of special events. And if you haven't seen them, we've had these monthly artist salons where we host an artist and they give us a chance to just look at their work or look at their studio or look at their process. Each one's been a little bit different. And again, those are all been recorded in our video library. But sort of in the spirit of those monthly salons, I thought we could do some visits today with a couple of our local Valley artists, including Marty Mead and John Torrey, and also a little preview of the community center's new mural that's being created by the Next Gen Climate interns at the behest of Corey Van Gelder. And so I think we're going to start there. I think I'm not sure if anyone's that aware at this point, how many people are aware of the Next Gen program. It's been going for some time, but I think we really need to hear a little bit about this. It's actually, Corey is the person to talk about this because she's running this, but it's a way of supporting another generation of creative talents and interesting individuals. So I'm going to turn it over first to Corey and her group, and I hope we can hear you. And this is the point where we'll probably turn off some of the other cameras to strengthen that image and everything.
Stop video.
So hello, Corey.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I am just so honored to work with an awesome crew of 6 climate activism interns through the community center that we call Green Stitch. And I really like supporting them and speaking for themselves. So I'm going to start and turn it over to Sam.
Hi, I'm just going to start by kind of introducing us. We're Green Stitch, a climate internship with the community center. And kind of our main goal in this internship is to educate the community about climate change and also kind of build a community around the climate action, working to solve climate change. And so we do this through community ed presentations, public art alongside Francis Drake, and we're currently working on a mural. And kind of examples of this, like this Monday, we're going to go present at Lagunitas School to educate middle schoolers about climate action and climate solutions, and to spread the word about our internship. But kind of what our main project right now is this mural. We're still in the process of chalking it in and painting it. So we don't have a picture. We do have a picture, but not the actual mural to show you. So I think Julie's gonna screen share that that sketch of the mural we have, and then Ben's gonna tell you about it.
Yeah. So yeah, that big. So this mural is showing where we are right now, our pollution, our cities, and that guy is kind of unraveling the thread of our earth. And then the other side, we have our future with the earth and being in tune with the earth and not polluting and all of that stuff. This mural was made by Anna Jensen, who is a partner of Green Stitch, and it also honors Connie Smith Siegel. It also honors Connie Smith Siegel. You can see her right there weaving the quilt. Yeah. All of the patches represent stuff pertaining climate solutions, problems, and just ways that we can work to become a better and healthy planet. Oh, I'm gonna pass it to Willow.
Thank you. Since we're talking about art and activism, which the mural is, I just want to say a little bit about that. Something I love about art and activism, one, it's very, just art in general for me is fun. And so if you can be doing fun and beautiful art as well as inspiring and making other people want to do art activism, it's all the better. And so, yeah, and so the people that see the art that you make will make them want to care. And so that's why I love art pertaining to activism, because it kind of spreads a message and there's a lot of deep meaning behind each art piece. So Samantha, who just talked before Ben and myself, we've been putting up signs on Sir Francis Drake. You might have seen them when you drive west, you can see them. There's one at the school, Lagunitas School, and one at the Presbyterian Church. And we've changed them out, so like every 3 weeks we put up a new one. And we just want to inspire people who drive by to think a lot about whatever the message is and be inspired to spread the message. And okay, so an example, one of the messages we've put on the sign is "Your planet, my planet, our future."
With some pretty pathetic signs.
Yeah. Wait, what was that? I didn't hear. Yeah, and we just hope that the people who see them are really inspired. And yeah, we hope that you spread the art and activism. I'm gonna pass it to Buddy now.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd also like to, I'm also here to talk about art and activism. And just I'm here to talk about art and activism in the sense of its actual messaging, you know, how art can really, you know, bring forth what the message is. And it can do this not simply through just, you know, talking or thinking about things, you know, like a lecture or whatever, you know, it can do it through like you remembering, you know, this is a picture, it's timeless, it's like this, and it represents something, which is, you know, pretty incredible. And you guys saw the drawing by Anna right there a few seconds ago. It really is incredible how much can be put in. Thank you. Julie, what can be put into a drawing and what can be put into art, you know, retain to activism. And I think that's pretty cool, you know. I'm gonna pass it to you now, Corey.
Great, thank you. All right. I just wanted to say one more thing about the patches that the image of Connie Smith-Siegel is stitching together. And although Anna was our lead artist, we spent months coming up together with the image that we wanted to use in the mural with everybody's input and ideas. And also another muralist in the community, Kathy Edwards, helping us. And the patches come from the Green New Deal and the Thrive Agenda. And they each represent aspects of what those agendas are trying to put forth for legislation and commitment from people about climate. And in that's Sir Francis Drake. Specifically, especially because tomorrow there's the Coastal Miwok of Marin, the Marin Coastal Miwok Council will be doing a presentation. And I've had the honor to work with them because one of the aspects of healing from the climate crisis is to be following Indigenous knowledge. And we wanted to represent that in the quilt on the mural. And so it was an honor to work with them. And the piece that will be related to or honoring their knowledge is going to have mugwort, which is a sacred plant for them here in the valley, and the words to follow Indigenous knowledge. And lastly, I just, oh, there was some other little thing I was going to say. Slipped my mind. Okay, so just thank you so much for
Paintbrushes.
Oh, paintbrushes. We're going to get to use Connie Smith-Siegel's paintbrushes to paint our mural. We got to do a color workshop from her students, Dahlia and Ayumi and Carol. So we've just had this incredible collaboration with the artists, Connie Smith-Siegel's people, and getting to know more about her. And that's been a huge part of the inspiration for this project and for the students. Has this been?
Do you need more brushes?
Oh, do we need more brushes? I'm going to see from Carol what we'll get tomorrow, Monday from her. And if I do, maybe I'll go, if I can go back to the group viewing. I don't know who's offering. So we may. Who should I contact?
Leo.
Leo, okay. All right, so Leo, I will reach out if we need more brushes. Thank you.
All right.
Great. Any questions for any of the young people before we move on, or before you go on to your next?
One thing, Corey, could you just mention each of the artists' names again?
Oh, yes. So today with us is Buddy Fowler, Willow Thelen, Ben DeAndre, Sam Podall. Those students, Julia Ing Heth had to leave. She was here earlier. Ane Paulman is also an intern, but she works on Saturdays. And then finally, Anna Jensen is our lead artist that has been working with us on the mural.
Very cool. Thank you. And most of these artists had a chance to visit Connie's studio. Is that right? Did you say that? Or
they all got to participate in the color workshop.
Yeah.
Just Anna so far has gone to the studio.
Oh,
yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That I hope that gives everyone a chance to really kind of see what's going on with Next Gen and what is happening literally live at the San Geronimo Valley Community Center. Almost the only thing happening live at the San Geronimo Valley Community Center at this juncture, but
Yeah, we're the only ones here.
well, we much appreciate it.
Hey, Larry, can I add something
Yeah,
along those
please
lines?
do.
Yeah,
That's
thank
Dave
you.
Port's voice.
Yeah, it's great to see everybody, Dave Cord here. And yeah, what a nice gathering and such a beautiful day. Nice for me being outside in my backyard in Lagunitas. But of course, I'd much rather be at the community center with all of you and the next gen. And but I think really one of the pieces that really illustrates for me in really working with the Green Stitch and Next Gen climate action, this has been, a very healthy step for us to begin the process of reopening the community center. And, I think I've shared this in other forums. When we got the word on March 13th, 2020 at 5 p.m. that we needed to lock our doors, at first they thought it was just going to be for 3 weeks, but um, I think we all learned it's been much longer. It's been, going on 15 months. In some ways that wasn't that difficult. It was okay. This pandemic hit, things were scary. We put up a sign in English and a sign in Spanish and we locked the doors. And yeah, it was traumatic, but it wasn't that tough. But, the process of reopening is, of course, what we're finding, much more difficult and much trickier. And of course, we're working very closely with the Lagunitas School District, whose campus we're on and who owns our building, and really um, really focusing on getting the public school open for the students. But this was a really healthy step for us, having this activity, with our younger next generation and, being in the porticos. And as you can see, we're being really careful, everybody's wearing face coverings. And so I just want to let everybody know, we're taking little steps and being real safe. We're thrilled um, with our partnership with the Trust for Public Lands to have the food distribution in the clubhouse parking lot. And now we started senior lunch to go boxes there. And we've had COVID testing and COVID vaccinations there. So I just want to let everybody know, from my seat, we're really, really working hard and our board is working hard. I know we have some board members in the gallery. Our founder, Gene Berensmeyer's here today. And, there's no playbook for this reopening, but we're really collaborating with other community centers, other art centers, and we're doing our utmost with great intentionality to begin to reopen. And we know, hopefully in mid-June, statewide things going to reopen and the timing's well with school being over on June 10th. So, stay tuned. But if anybody has, any thoughts, any questions, please reach out to me. But I just want to let you know that we're really, really working hard and trying to be, very thoughtful in getting back together in person the safest way possible. So yeah, thank you for letting me jump in there, Larry, and thank you, Corey, and the Next Gen crew, and thank you to all the artists who've been in the art show.
Thank you. So I would like to thank you, Dave. I'm going to move to our next artist, which is John Torrey. And John Torrey is a Lagunitas resident, I do believe. I have known his work primarily through one piece showing up at the Spring Art Show every year for many years, which always made me curious. And we fortunately eventually had a group, not a group show, but a solo show of John's work as well. And I've always really appreciated his work, and I'm glad to have a chance to kind of do a little highlight on what he's up to. I guess I could tell you a couple more things. His work is, if you don't mind, John, I mean, he's an architect, he's a painter. His work's been in a lot of collections around the planet, probably. And Well, I don't want to go too far. I know that you might want to talk about yourself a little bit. But I know you've studied at some pretty interesting places. And so anyway, John's going to show us a little bit of his work today. Okay, John.
Well, a little bit about me. I grew up in New York, and many years ago, I studied art at the Art Students League on 57th Street there. And when I came to California, I studied art at the College of Marin with Chester Arnold. And Chester is a master at methods and materials, how to prime a canvas, stretch a canvas, what are the different kinds of paints there are, how to use rabbit skin glue to stiffen a canvas, all manner of things. And one of the interesting experiences I had with, well, I was at College of Marin. I had a teacher, not Chester, someone else, and he said that he told me a story of a student of his who complained bitterly that the professor was not teaching her a style. And of course, that's not something you can teach. That's something you have to develop on your own. And it takes sometimes an agonizing number of years to do that. So that stuck with me somehow. And maybe we could go to, Larry, put up one of my first pieces there. Are we on, Larry? Okay, I'll just keep talking. Oh, here we go. Okay. Right, here's Harry. This is 16 by 16 inches. It's a small piece. It's oil on board. And it was in a show juried by Jack Fisher, who has a gallery in the city, at a show at Artworks downtown. And I think the reason he picked it is that it's, first of all, it's not overdone. And I don't know about other artists, but many artists fall prey to working and reworking their pieces, and they lose the immediacy of what they're trying to capture. And here I'm using whites and grays and beiges in the face, and I'm not too careful about where the brush goes, so that I think there are a few happy accidents here that create a mood and a style, if you will, that I like, and then Jack Fisher likes. And one of the things that artists do that I do also is I follow certain artists, especially in figurative work and portraiture, not to copy them, but just to learn from them. And my two favorite artists, at least for the time being, are Chaim Soutine, a Lithuanian artist who lived in Paris during the time of Picasso. And he's a pretty wild painter. If you look him up, Soutine, Chaim Soutine. And he does very wild kind of portraits. He is a master at depicting animal carcasses, for instance. So he gets very bloody. He also does landscapes, which in some ways become alive. And he's one of my favorites. The other artist I like to follow and investigate is Elmer Bischoff from the Bay Area School of Painting. And he has a way of painting without getting into too much detail. He creates a mood and an image in his figurative work that I find very compelling. So that's pretty much it, what I'm trying to do there. In other words, the idea is less is more. That's what I'm trying to get across. Maybe we could go to the next image. Oh yeah, here it is, Sean. Okay, this one I think maybe isn't even a little more successful because I'm just with a few lines in the face This is also 16 by 16, by the way, with a few lines in the face. I'm trying to capture that mood of, and I think what this subject is expressing is maybe he's a little bit despondent. He's perhaps a little shocked by something. And in a few lines, if you can capture that, and I think it goes a certain distance to doing that, then I think you're on your way to having a successful
Why?
piece. By the way, if anybody has a question, just chime in. Happy to answer any questions about my work. So this piece, maybe I can move. Oh, can you see my mouse here? Okay, here's the next piece. I have two landscapes to show. This one is in Sana'a in Yemen. I have a strong attachment to Middle Eastern subject matter. I spent 6 years living and working in the Gulf states, first in Bahrain, where I was an advisor to the government on town planning. I have a architecture degree from Berkeley, and I do a lot of city planning work as well. So I got to know the Arab community. And this was before the Iranian Revolution in '79. I was in Bahrain when that happened. And after one of the aftermath of the Iranian Revolution is that for a number of reasons, the Sunni and the Shia were at each other's throats. But when I was there, that was not so. They would intermarry and get along quite well. Anyway, this is in Sana'a in Yemen. I've never been to Sana'a, and you can't go now. There, if you're an American walking down the street, you'd be shot dead because of our support for the Saudis who were waging that war. Anyway, not to get into politics here, but the way the buildings are constructed really interests me. And I think here again, I'm trying to have a sketchy presentation, not too much detail, and a bit of a casual presentation, but I do think it kind of holds together. And one of the interesting things, you can see the mosque tower here, and that is built right into the apartment block, if you will. And the white you see there is with the more expensive houses, that it's alabaster stone, and the poorer folks just paint those white embellishments and ornamentation with lime. But they do beautiful architecture in Yemen. I was close to Yemen in Asir province in Saudi, and they have a similar kind of architecture that they've been developing over the years using a mud brick, and if they're near the water, near the ocean, they use coral stone. And they have a stone plinth for foundations, and they build up on that. And some of these buildings get quite high, but like I say, I have a strong attachment to that kind of imagery from my experiences in the Middle East. This happens to be a small piece, 12 by 12 on board. And that goes, that's what that's about. Here's the final image. I worked on the Yanbu New City project, which is 300 kilometers north of Jeddah, the main commercial city on the Red Sea. And the idea was to build a city of 150,000 and develop an industrial park related to the city. My job was to manage design and construction of housing, worker housing. And I also created a downtown plan for the project. And as I drive around the Hijaz Mountains in northern Saudi Arabia, I see villages that are built out of mud brick. They just rise up out of the ground. And when they run out of water, the residents leave, and you can see the villages sinking back into the earth because it's all organic material. But the imagery of these places is quite beautiful. And like I say, it's kind of a nostalgic thing for me, but I hope to do more with these images. I'm getting in, and I'm drawn into creating more a dynamic feeling with landscapes by studying people like Satine and others of the same vein. So that's what I'm doing. I do a lot of portraits, some figure studies. I do abstract work, some abstract work, and I sold some pieces at the Andrea Schwartz Gallery in the city. I used to be with Room Gallery in Mill Valley for 11 years, but they stopped doing gallery work last year. And I'm looking for a gallery. It's not an easy thing nowadays. My wife happens to be a very successful artist, and I'm always under the kind of a feeling that I've got to try to do better to at least come close to matching what she does. Anyway, that's my practice here, and that's what I do. One last thing I'd like to mention. This is a bit not political, but it's a community. I'm sponsoring a community interest in developing a water desalination plant for Marin County. There are 11 desalination plants on the California coast. 10 more are planned. There is one in San Diego that serves a population of 400,000. And my interest is drawn from the fact that in Yanbu, where I was working as a part of a team of people designing and building this new city, we had a desalination plant designed and constructed by Mitsubishi, Japanese company. So I've written a email to all the board members of the county and the water board to please look at more advanced solutions to our water problem here in Marin County, which could become very severe over the next, or even next year, could be in serious trouble. Okay, that's what I have. And any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Well, thank you, John. Very cool. Yeah, and hopefully when we come back to the center, maybe we'll do another solo show of your work. I'd like to see a body of your work again on the walls.
Yeah, I'd like that very much as well.
Oh, one thing also, I enjoy your drawing, which I know it seems like you do a lot of. It seems like you do a lot of sketchbooks. Is that right? I remember seeing
My bookcase in back, there's sketchbooks. One of the reasons I don't have an iPad and an iPhone is that every time I turn around, there are people that got that thing right in their face. And my grandson he's got a real bad addiction to that stuff. So my iPad and iPhone is my sketchbook. And when I'm on a plane or a train or just spending part of an afternoon on my deck bed, I'm doodling, and ideas come to mind, that kind of stuff.
Is that a reference point for your paintings as well? I mean, like when you do things harkening back to the Middle East and that sort of thing, is it stuff coming from the sketchbook, or is it coming out of your mind?
Well, there's a lot of source material from sketchbooks. I mean, a lot of artists do that, and if you visit artist studios, you'll see piles of sketchbooks. And I'm always on the prowl for sale of sketchbooks. I went down to Riley's the other day. They had some very nice sketchbooks, 5 by 8, I think they are, and $5.99. So can't resist,
Well, it's very cool. Well, and as you just said, does anyone have any questions? Maybe we'll take any kind of
I've muted everybody temporarily, but feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, if you want to ask a question, you'll have to unmute. Oh. All right. Well, that's a nice little brief preview of your work. I feel like I'd like to look around your studio someday also, but I like that studio. Anyway, well, thank you for this preview of your work. And again, when we get back, we'll get back to you in terms of
And thanks to you, Larry, and others at the Community Center for inviting me to be part of this closing ceremony. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I guess we can move on to our next guest, which is going to be Marty Mead. And I'm assuming people might know Marty Mead, but one thing I've learned through working with the community center and all the artists is never to assume about who knows who. You know, all these artists are tucked away in their studios so much of the time that, of course, I have often told that story of not of having to introduce artists who lived in the Valley for 20 years, you know, and I'm in the role of usually with the Spring Art Show saying, hey, you two should meet, you know. Anyway, in this case, I think Marty is probably pretty familiar. She's a glass bead artist, a stained glass artist, a watercolor artist. She has been teaching for, I think, since 1995, something like that, at the College of Marin. And if you come by the community center, in the olden days, on Fridays, you would see a large watercolor class in the West Room, and that was Marty's watercolor class. And she's won a couple of awards that I'm aware of in terms of as an instructor. And again, I don't want to steal her bio from her in case she wants to say anything. So I'm going to basically turn it over to Marty. Thank you for being part of this also.
Thank you. Am I on the big screen yet, or am I spotlighted?
I don't think so yet, at least not there.
Yeah. Well, welcome to my studio. This is the beautiful glass piece that David Ruth made for me, and I don't get to show it off too often, but you're about to enter my sacred place. Many of you had your children come and study with me for years, but most recently, I haven't been teaching things other than glass bead making and glass fusing. But you're coming in and I'm giving you just a quick, brief showing you the location and where things happen here. You see all of these vents and pipes, and that is where the fabrication of beads are made, and also where my stained glass projects are done. And on the other side of the studio is where I spend time researching, studying. I'm hoping I'm getting everything in here. But
it looks great, Marty.
Thank you. I want to share my story, and then I'm going to take you around and just show you some individual pieces. But I was a person that was totally turned off to art by one teacher when I was a child. I was very creative. I used to be able to take rags, you know, pieces of fabric and make dolls and cardboard boxes. I spent my youth doing that. I just loved figuring out and making things. But I was in elementary school and I painted the same painting over and over again because I love to paint it. And that was of a little girl coming out of a house and next to a tree. And this teacher stood over me with her hand on her hip and said, "You're not painting that again, are you?" And I said, "Of course not." So that was one of the first killer of artists that I encountered. But fortunately, I was smart enough to gear to what we call technical arts. And I got the Bank of America Award for my work in home economics. I was a dressmaker and I became a very successful cake decorator and taught that for many years. But somebody that influenced me a lot, and my sister is here from San Diego County, But my brother worked for Charles Ames, the designer. And Charles Ames was a part of our family and of the world I knew. And Charles Ames introduced me to Mary Corita, whose art I loved. And she, when I heard her speak, she really taught me to see the world so differently. But again, these were just people that I knew and grew up with. So we moved to Marin County, and I was teaching cake decorating when I met Judy North. And Judy was extremely interested in cake decorating. So after she finished, she said, I would love to share my story with you, or my art with you. Would you like to do a stained glass? And I said, of course, you know. So I went, and I had the liberty to go into her studio and choose any glass that I wanted. And I was too naive to know that I couldn't, I made a piece with 100 and some pieces in it. And standing in her studio, I began to weep because the beauty of the glass and the light coming through it was something so deeply, that touched me very deeply. My career flew. I really began immediately. I was offered a teaching job at the College of Marin because I substituted for somebody, and the students asked for me to continue. The window that I'm going to show you, my sister's, who's here again, has one of the first pieces that I did. This is called Northern Lights. And my brother-in-law, Stan Mogg, was losing his vision. And they asked me to make a piece of glass for them. So I really wanted to do something that was complete focus and that Stan would be able to enjoy as his vision disappeared. So that was quite an inspiration for me. And I did 2 other pieces, and this one I have kept. But my watercolors became important because I didn't like the linear look of stained glass. And so I started doing paintings from photographs, and from the paintings, then I would transfer those into my glass work. I got a chance to study in France with Roger de Carrera. And then most recently, I was able to go to Murano to study glass bead making there. But I'm going to begin just showing you images in my studio. The person in that corner is Sterling Bennell, who was my mentor for 30 some years. He was a Jungian psychiatrist. And as I was going through difficult times, mainly, well, stuff that had to do, I guess, with my spiritual concepts and who I am, he always made things understandable for me, and was in my life through many, many years of the journey. Behind me is my my library. As you can see, I'm extremely organized. I have to live, well, I'm mentioning because I have these little books and the notebooks, and everything is marked and well kept. I'm going to walk you slowly through the studio, and those of you that have get dizzy, close your eyes while I take this. My desk and my file drawers where I keep all of my prints. And this stained glass window is called The Soul and the Spirit Are Not One. I kept a lot of journals. I kept, did a lot of meditation. Excuse me, I'm trying to get this so that you can see it. But I kept struggling because what I really liked was working with people and working in the garden, and they felt so separate. I'm sorry. I have to pay attention to the screen. So Sterling was helpful to me because he emphasized that the two aren't the same. So that part of me that's involved with the community is about the soul, and the spiritual part is that part in which I'm constantly looking to the noumena. A little peek at the corner of my studio, and you'll see a painting that I've done, but also, sorry about this, which is what I was dreading. A picture of Jimi Hendrix burning his guitar. And the reason that that's here is that my husband, Bud, was the high school teacher that influenced Ed Cariff when Jimi Hendrix, when he was shooting those pictures. There are several books out about Ed's work, and he does mention Bud in them. So he is still in our life. So I'm going to stop and explain to you about the ventilation system. Because I do bead making, I also work with gold leaf and silver, and the fumes are very toxic. So in order to have my classes safe, we installed ventilation for each station. I have 8 stations. Behind the vents, you can see my grinding equipment. And above that, shoe boxes with glass that is used for glass fusing. Two of my kilns. The lower one is a very old one that is used for glass fusing, and the one on the top is for bead making. And as you can see in this corner, I've had to keep students' work organized, and all of the bins that are marked are my equipment, pencils, rulers, everything. And behind that is the glass that I use for glass, stained glass. These are the rods of glass that I use for glass bead making. I want to show you a couple of my necklaces, if I can. It's a little different with the laptop here. Excuse me, pardon me, close your eyes while I get this. This is a necklace that's called Lagunitas Creek, and it's one in which I wanted to honor the salmon. And then 2 more necklaces. So I want to tell you a little bit about my watercolors. I'm going to step above. Hopefully you can see these. The first painting that I wanted to share with you is called The Three Sisters. And it's a painting that I did after I began to see my elders fading. They were getting, it was toward the end of their lives. And that's my mother in the hot pink pants, and my sister, my Aunt Tilly, and my Aunt Tony. But I've spent probably 2 or 3 years just painting my family of origin. And in the exhibit that's on the virtual show right now, I have a picture of Everardo, who is our relative from Mexico. So I did many, many portraits for quite a few years. The next piece is the one that you might be familiar with, and that's called Utopia. And I just love my valley, and I wanted to really capture the beauty of the springtime. And it was in this painting that I really had to figure out and problem solve how to do all of those little white flowers and the buttercups in the background. So when COVID arrived, I had my studio to myself, and did get a commission. And this was a painting that a relative wanted who lives in Washington, D.C. And it was in this piece that I had to figure out how to do the sage. And with the time and the studio, I just could spend hours trying to problem solve. And I used a lot of resist. I put down layers of washes of color, resist for the grasses, more resist, and more washes of colors. I think I ended up with about 5 layers in order to get the feeling of that sage. I always struggled with landscapes because I really wanted to get air and the ambient feelings. And I think Connie Smith Siegel was able to accomplish that. So this painting I did with Connie in mind. This is called, it's a piece from a photo from Sheep Ranch. And in this, again, I had to really, really focus on how to get those shrubs. And the last painting that I wanted to share with you is my friend Truda. Truda in Sweden. We got, for my 80th birthday, I got to go visit Truda in her beautiful home. And again, it was a challenge as to how I was going to get those birch trees. But I love the whole thing of problem solving and having the time to just sort of get lost with good music and just paint with no interruptions. But with COVID, my classes all stopped. I lost a lot of income, and I was given the opportunity to start teaching on Zoom. And so I had to learn how to work with Zoom. And so I did stop painting, but I've been teaching successfully several watercolor classes for the college. And then I got the opportunity to teach at the Ghost Ranch in New Mexico. And I just finished 4 days of a wonderful class that met every morning, and students from all over the nation, and people that really wanted to have a class for beginners. It was a really, really good class. And I will be offering classes now in the fall and 2 in the spring through Ghost Ranch. Hopefully we will be able to return to the community center next fall in person. But in the meantime, our Zoom classes are doing really, really good. But sorry about the bumpy camera. I wasn't sure how this was going to work using the laptop. But if you have any questions for me, I'd love to answer them.
Well, I thought you did very well with the laptop, considering that's not easy. That's not a cell phone you were carrying around there. That was pretty impressive. Well, I was just really impressed by your whole operation, all those tubes and stuff. I mean, I had no idea. I always knew you had a studio there where you did glass work and all this other stuff, but I had no idea that it involved that much equipment just to do it safely. That's really quite something. Wow. And I just for anyone listening, also, if Marty's glasswork is also at the community center, both at the gym and the community center. In the West Room, you can see a series of stained glass in the windows that she and her students did some time ago.
Those are valley scenes, pictures of the valley, and there's different seasons.
Mm-hmm. And then at the community gym, there's a large glass piece that's installed there as well, I believe.
Hey, Marty, I just wanted to say how absolutely wonderful the piece to me that you did, that you said Connie Smith Siegel inspires somehow, but you got that wind feeling. It was just, I just absolutely love that piece. It's just gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I kept looking at landscapes and they always just were pictures. Yeah. And what I did love about Connie's work is that she gave us everything. Mm-hmm. So thank you very much.
Yeah, those were very impressive pieces.
Yeah, definitely.
I
job.
have to say a special thank you to Marty as well for the replacement and repairing of our front, the glass windows in front of the community center that had been damaged, actually vandalized, unfortunately. And Marty offered to repair them, and they're good as new, and we're so pleased. So thank you, Marty.
And those were the stained glass pieces as well.
And those were a Valley project that I can't speak to the history of, but I know there are probably those here that were participants in that. But thank you again, Marty.
Shelley Jers was the artist, and she's no longer with us. She's passed on. So it was hard to, we had to find the glass, and I was able to do that she used for that. So thank you, Julie.
And well, I certainly hope your classes come back soon as well. That's we've already kind of had that conversation about how much we're all kind of chomping at the bit to do it in person. But you feel like you've done pretty well in the Zoom format of being able to reach art students, and that they actually are gaining from it pretty effectively.
Yes, I have several students here today. A lot of my returning students said that they happen to like the fact that they can see me working, and I do work during the entire time on all of these. So it's great. I am very pleased with technology, even though it was hard. It took time for me to learn it, but I think it's a really great way to communicate. There's some bad stuff with it, but it's, virtually we can really reach the world and communicate. So.
This one thing, it's funny because Molly and I were talking earlier, because I had seen something that you had testified before the California Assembly, and it seemed like what it was about including stained glass as an art form. And when I said this, Molly said, well, what about places like, Chartres, and I think it turns out, of course, that's where you studied. I mean, what
happened was that the Assembly was trying to decide that what defined art, and they had not included stained glass in it. And I had just returned from Europe, and College of Marin, by the way, was doing the same thing. They bumped my class from credit classes down to non-credit because it wasn't recognized as, quote, art. So that was fresh under my belt. And when I heard about what was happening in Sacramento, I was able to speak on behalf of the glass artists and change the law. So yeah, I forgot about that.
That's pretty fascinating. I've always had trouble wrapping my head around this idea that certain kinds of creativity isn't art. I mean, that somebody kind of draws some kind of line. I mean, it's often been held with different forms of ceramics and a lot of things to me that you think, well, I don't know. I know there's.
Well, I like to, a lot of people just label something, they started calling things craft versus art. But when I'm teaching, I emphasize that I teach the craft of watercolor, but it's the artist that's going to take that material and use it. So that for me has been the best way that I know to define those two terms. So
Interesting.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Again, if anyone else, you can open your mic if you have any commentary or questions, or you can put them in the chat. We've had a little bit in the chat, but not too much. And I'll give you a moment to think about that. We have actually already.
Marty,
Yes.
as your student, I picked up on your wash, resist, wash, resist, wash, resist. Now I understand. Thank you.
Good.
I'm curious, what is resist?
Hold on a second. Resist is something like rubber cement.
Oh.
Okay, so that's one way. Drawing gum, Cabello. There's different brands that come out, and this, what you do is I put a wash of color down, like the first shade of greens that I'm going to use, and then with tiny brushes I start putting this resist to protect these areas. Then I do another wash of color, and then I repeat the process again and again and again until pretty soon you come up with these multiple layers of greens, because then you rub off everything.
Right, it protects
Interesting.
the one
But
part
it-
of the image from the color until, yeah.
But I have also discovered that I am an obsessive, and I can, depends on the music that I'm working with, I can I can work for hours. So thank you.
Very interesting. Well, I have to thank everybody. Thank you for coming to this. I do really want to say thank you to Corey Van Gelder and the whole Next Gen crew for showing up, who are still down at the community center painting, I believe. And I have to thank John Torrey and Marty Mead for letting us see their studios and exactly what they're up to and how they do it. This is, for me, it's very enriching. I've always, one of the things I liked best about working with the community center in terms of the visual arts is when I got to go to someone's studio and see where they did their work. And for me, for personal visits. And I really like the idea of having a chance, even in this kind of virtual version, to have a chance to go see people's studios and how they work. It's very enlightening to me.
But I'd like to share something to Corey's group of students. It was because of art that I got into a big body of work. I saw a movie called El Norte many, many years ago, and I was so grabbed by that movie and how it affected me, because I felt that what was happening in Central America was what had happened to my Native American grandmother. And so I started painting a body of work about Central America based on what I felt from that movie. And lo and behold, I meet the children from El Salvador that had come to the valley and soon actually began to live with me. But Corey, I think what you're doing is great. And I really think that this is, it's so powerful and how it impacts any of us. And with me, it was a movie that did this. So keep up the work.
Oh, thank you. All righty. Well, once again, I think this is going to have to wrap up our closing of the spring art show. We don't have to take the artwork down or carry it out of the room. That's real different, or move all that stuff. It's a little faster this time. But again, thank everyone that's participated, both in terms of the art, and I have to say there were a lot of new faces, which really surprises me this year, but I'm always pleased by that. And thank everyone who came today and everyone who's supporting the community center.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Larry. Yeah, and
Thank
like
you,
Larry
everybody.
said,
Thank you.
yeah, all the art is on the community center website. One of the things that we've been really successful with during the pandemic is really getting our website in really good shape. So you can see all the artwork there. You can see recordings of all the virtual events. And we're really looking forward to seeing all of you in person very, very soon. And we'll definitely be reaching out on different ways that we're reopening. And I mean, I'm feeling very optimistic, Marty, that your class will be able to take place at the community center in the fall. We're
Right.
really got our fingers crossed for that.
It's been, we're missing, everybody's missing the interaction, but we're doing okay on Zoom so far.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So there's the next gens are all waving about.
And again, thank you all Next Geners for the work you're doing there and for showing up on our event today. And I hope everyone has a good afternoon, and we'll keep you posted on the next events. Again, we've been doing monthly artist salons, and we have a lot of things planned. We don't even know what we have planned because we don't know what the future holds. Well, I know we have a couple of exciting things. One is the a Juneteenth event. Mwanza Ferrara is going to be hosting that, and that's coming up in June. And but again, you'll hear about all of this by way of our website and our email blasts and etc. and stones.
Yeah.
Can everybody turn their videos back on so we can see you?
Oh yeah, please do. Please do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Video and mics, you can put them on if you wish.
Yeah, 5 p.m. tomorrow night, the Coast Miwok presentation.
Right.
We have a huge crowd already signed up, and you know, I know in April, they also presented through the San Geronimo Valley Planning Group, and I got to see that. It was really, really wonderfully done. And
I gotta go, bye.
yeah, we're looking forward to tomorrow night, 5 p.m.
Got
You
it.
go to our website to register for that.
Okay. And do have to say thank you, Julie Young, for being our tech person tonight and getting those slides up and everything. Thank you, Julie.
Hey, Julie,
Thank you.
give Julie a hand clap.
It's all
You can
good.
actually hear this
My
one.
pleasure, my pleasure.
Okay. And again,
See you all tomorrow.
okay. Well, yes, tomorrow, the Coast Miwok. So have a good afternoon or evening.